For 400 years, the scientific method has required a specific piece of biological hardware. The process of gathering data and forming a hypothesis has always relied on a human brain to recognize a pattern that didn't yet exist in the records. Einstein arrived at his most significant leaps through mental simulations, complex experiments run entirely inside his own mind, decades before we had the tools to actually measure the results. Even as computers began helping us sort data and run simulations, the actual realization of how the pieces of a system fit together remained limited by human processing speed. Machines were passive tools. They could crunch numbers and organize files, but they never provided the spark that set the research in motion. In March of 2026, the journal Nature published a paper with sound methodology and rigorous experimental results. But the manuscript had 0 human authors. It was produced by a system from Sakana AI called the AI Scientist. This platform operated autonomously, formulating its own starting hypothesis, designing the tests to prove it, and writing the final report without human intervention. This is a departure from previous milestones like AlphaFold. While that system predicted millions of protein structures, human researchers still had to define the specific problem for the machine to solve. By taking over the generation of the ideas themselves, the machine has moved into a role previously reserved for the lead researcher. A standard language model is static, it has a knowledge cutoff, and no way to interact with the physical world or manage a research project that lasts longer than a single chat session. The solution is a multi-agent architecture. A central orchestrator coordinates specialized modules. One agent identifies literature gaps to hypothesize. It hands goals to a design agent, triggering an execution agent for simulations, a data analysis agent, and finally, a writing agent. This infrastructure allows the system to stay focused on a problem for months, refining its approach and accumulating evidence through persistent loops. Success in this field is no longer just about having the largest model. It's about mastering the orchestration layer that allows these agents to work together without human supervision. The value of this autonomy is measured in speed. In drug discovery, the early phase of identifying a single viable compound out of billions of possibilities has historically been a massive labor sink. What usually takes a human team 5 years to narrow down, these autonomous systems can now process in 5 months. The DD4GH platform used this capacity to find drug candidates for neglected diseases, conditions that often lack the commercial incentives required to fund traditional, slow-paced human research. We see the same compression at MIT, where AI was used to discover atomic defects that make energy conversion more efficient. They mapped the search space for new materials at a pace that trial and error labs couldn't match. By shifting from human intuition to exhaustive computational search, fields that used to move at the speed of a researcher's career are now moving at the speed of the hardware. As these systems become fully autonomous, the role of the scientist begins to change. We have to decide what it means to be a researcher when you are no longer the one asking the questions. This puts the traditional PhD model under pressure. Graduate students have historically learned their craft by performing the very data analysis and literature reviews that machines now handle in seconds. There is also a systemic risk involving accuracy. AI agents are designed to produce outputs that look and sound authoritative, which could allow flawed or hallucinated data to slip through a peer review system that wasn't built to catch machine errors. Furthermore, because these models learn from existing papers, they may reinforce current scientific trends and overlook the radical, outsider ideas that often lead to the biggest breakthroughs. If the diversity of our hypotheses narrows even as our output grows, we could end up with a library of knowledge that is incredibly wide but lacks depth. The shift is already becoming visible in the economy. By 2028, the materials and drug candidates being identified by agents today will be moving into commercial production and clinical trials. Within the decade, the raw volume of new research in fields like protein design will likely be generated primarily by AI orchestrators rather than human teams. The 400-year standard of the human-led laboratory is being augmented by an infrastructure that produces data at the speed of the processor. We will likely generate more verified data in the next 10 years than in all of human history. The question is whether our institutions can turn that mountain of information into actual wisdom.